we're delighted to have you here. And of course, I hope some of you can see a metaphor coming. The flood. A month later, the Supreme Court decided Citizens United. And to many of us, the flood of new money, so much of it secret, so much of it troubling into our political system began. And we are engaged in a long-term effort over many months, over many years, involving many issues, enlisting many allies and many thinkers and many distinct points of view to grapple with this big change that we see in the constitutional jurisprudence about money in politics and about our broader democracy, and to grapple with the real world consequences that we see in our elections. I have a number of people I want to thank, first of all, for being here, for helping put this event together, and then I'll tell you where it fits into what we're doing. First of all, we do want to thank our colleagues at the Century Foundation who partnered with us in very short notice to put this book out for the public. Greg Anrig is here, Carol Starmack and Jason Renker and their colleague and President Dick Leone will be here, I believe. And we want to thank the Century Foundation for doing this so quickly and so well and making this available to the public. The book that we're going to be releasing today. And we do point out that the Brennan Center, when it got started 15 years ago, the very first thing the Brennan Center did was a project that was spearheaded, among others, by our founding legal director, Bert Newborn, who's here, a professor at NYU, to urge that the Buckley versus Vallejo decision be overturned. We did it with the Century Foundation, and the good news is that 15 years later, one Supreme Court justice has agreed with that position. The bad news is it's Justice Thomas. And the part he wants overturned are the parts we like. So, you know, but the moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends toward justice very slowly, you know. But we're glad to do this with you again. We also want to thank the supporters of the Brennan Center who made this book and our work on money and politics possible, who are here, and the Open Society Foundations, the Atlantic Philanthropies, the Democracy Fund, and the partners of the Democracy Alliance, the Rockefeller Brothers Fund, the Compton Foundation, the Wallace Global Fund, and many others, and also pro bono partners from the legal community. I know folks from Simpson Thatcher are here, and others as well, who have been so deeply involved in this work, in the courts, both in federal court and at the Supreme Court, as we've done these things. And you know, there's a dirty little secret in this field, which is that even before Citizens United, we all knew that there was a lot of rethinking needing to be done. That in many, many ways, this was an area that was stuck in a rut, intellectually stuck in a rut, legally stuck in a rut, strategically, for people who've been trying the same strategies for decades without success. Citizens United redrew the lines that are the subject of centuries of contest in our country between having a strong democracy on the one hand and a robust market on the other. But and it redrew those lines abruptly and for many of us inappropriately. But the fact is, it didn't come out of nowhere. There was an intellectual stagnation on the side of many who wished to assure that our democracy and our market economy thrive together. And it was the product of years of effort by those who wanted Citizens United, who wanted that outcome, who have been filing lawsuits all over the country trying to strike down the existing campaign finance laws. The Brennan Center, I should mention, plays a very significant role in fighting those lawsuits and in thinking these things through. As an institutional matter, we're very grateful for the support of NYU Law School, our partner. Many of the faculty are here today. And of our board of directors, I should introduce, for starters, our new co-chair of our board of directors, Larry Pedowitz. Please wave your hand so they know who to blame. Bert and Sam are members of the board as well. And we do expect Steve Reese, who's also on our board, to be here. And we are proud to be a strong institutional response and a strong institutional player. But we know that the rethinking and the new effort is not something that's going to happen this week or this month, but it's going to take a long time. Now tomorrow, we're going to be focusing in a way on things that are not related to the traditional campaign finance laws. Because we all know, especially given the changes in Congress and even at the legislative levels, that new campaign finance reform laws, please wake up, I won't say that again, new campaign finance reform laws are not likely to pass in the next Congress. But there are many, many other pressure points in legislative, in regulatory agencies, in states, for shareholders to try to bring accountability to the system. And that's what we're going to all be focusing on tomorrow. And there are many of the top experts from within government, from within the corporate bar, from within academia and elsewhere to help us identify those pressure points. But tonight, we're going to look even more broadly at the constitutional issues. Right after the Supreme Court issued that ruling, we had a gathering. And the New York Times said it was the A-list of constitutional law scholars. It was like a review. You know, Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 98 of con law scholars. And it was the first rethinking of these issues. And that conference produced the essays that are this book. And we are really, really grateful to the folks who spoke at the conference, who wrote the essays. Many of you are here. But there was not remotely, nor should there be, unanimity of views of how these things go together, how to make democracy and robust speech, constitutionally protected speech, work in tandem. And we're going to hear a really exciting debate tonight about that. And to moderate that debate, I want to introduce Monica Youn, who is the senior counsel at the Brennan Center until Friday at 5 p.m. 4:30. Banker's hours. She is starting on Monday, launching a new phase for us at the Brennan Center in our partnership with NYU Law School. She will be the first Brennan Center Constitutional Fellow at NYU Law School. This is a new initiative that will choose a Brennan Center staff attorney to transition fully into the life of the mind. And we're really thrilled that she'll be doing this. This has been a big year for Monica. In addition to editing this book, in addition to being our lead counsel on the McComish public financing case at the Supreme Court, she was a finalist for the National Book Award in Poetry. So we hope that tonight tops all of those in excitement.
Well, my job was going to be to introduce Sam, but Sam seems to have, there you are. I thought I saw you sitting across from Bert, and then suddenly you were gone. So you can remain seated for the moment. I also, first of all, wanted to give a personal thanks to Bert Newborn, who was instrumental in coming up with the themes and the key players in this symposium that turned into this book, and we are so lucky at the Brennan Center to be able to work with him. And then I wanted to introduce Sam Issacharoff, a member of our board, who is going to be introducing Rick and Jeff. Sam is... most of you know him. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. As we know, Sam is the Bonnie and Richard Rice Professor of Constitutional Law at NYU Law School, with mastery of many fields, particularly perhaps in the law of democracy, where he is one of the pioneers of the field and remains one of its towering figures. And whenever you pretty much make any argument in the law of democracy and are taken seriously, you have to reckon with his critical and rigorous perspective. We're very happy that he's here tonight.
So keeping with Michael's introduction on the theme of intellectual stagnation, Michael invited me to do this today. My job is really quite simple. It's no secret that Citizens United looms large over all the debates on the relationship between the Constitution and the democratic process right now. And to go along with what Michael is describing about debates having run their course for too long, the debate in this area has been, is money speech or not? And that had pretty much run whatever intellectual course it was going to run, both as a matter of theory and now pretty much certainly as a matter of doctrine. And it was noteworthy in the Citizens United opinion, which provided Justice Stevens, one of the strongest advocates for campaign finance reform, his final platform, that he finally gave up on that aspect of it and turned to more systematic questions about the way that the democratic process functions. And so it's with that in mind that we, I think, can move beyond the question is money speech and look at what really where the action is now. And this is what needs to be theorized. This is what's going to be litigated. This is what the Supreme Court is going to confront in part this term in the McComish case. And that is, okay, so money speech. Now what? And that neither begins nor ends the inquiry, because at that point we have to confront the tension between a constitutional guarantee of certain liberty forms, certain freedoms of expression, and a constitutional assumption about the role of democratic politics. The two converge in important ways, but as we've seen, particularly in the campaign finance area, the two diverge in also important ways. And that sets the stage for the debate today, which I think has the two most significant players on either side of this question. And so what I mean by that is if you take the idea that there has to be a synthetic view of democracy that carries you through these issues, nobody's going to put forward a better account of this than my friend and colleague Rick Pildes, who is a law professor at NYU, who has written what I think is the most systematic, synthetic account of how we should think about the constitutionalization of democratic politics in his 2003, is it, forward in the Harvard Law Review. And Rick has staked himself on the idea that the First Amendment, as applied to democratic politics, has to bend to the demands of the integrity of democracy. It's sort of the other side, but this is, I guess, I'm supposed to be like the guy with ladies and gentlemen, so we've got to make this a real battle. On the other side, weighing in at whatever, is Jeff Stone. And Jeff has also marked the terms of the debate here, most notably in his book on Perilous Times, which is the leading academic account of the pressures of political expediency upon civil liberties, an account of the history of suppression in the United States of civil liberties in critical moments from Palmer raids, McCarthy period, on into the present. Now, for our purposes at the Brennan Center, what's interesting is that both of these themes were developed quite organically within the work of the Brennan Center. Both Rick and Jeff were Geordie lecturers for the Brennan Center and presented, in Jeff's case, parts of the Perilous Times piece as his Geordie lecture about 5-6 years ago, something like that. And Rick presented his work on the political consequences of democratic failure in our body politic as part of his Geordie lecture last year, is that right, if I'm not mistaken. So Jeff, I should have mentioned, is a law professor at the University of Chicago. He was formerly the dean of University of Chicago Law School, formerly the provost of the University of Chicago. He's a frequent visitor at NYU Law School, and it's a pleasure to have him here.